Securities offered by Money Block, here to take a look at 3 stocks that are going to have notable moments. We're going to start with Goldman Sachs. We have earnings tomorrow morning. We've seen that the financials have come out, even though we saw Morgan Stanley come out and beat. Bottom line is, it seems like the moves that we've seen priced into the markets are starting to take its toll. What do I mean? Well, we saw that Morgan basically beat on top line, bottom line, and they've taken the stock down. We're going to take a look at Goldman Sachs, and right now GS is trading right around 237.26. That's down $7.04, or down about 2.88%. Now, here's what I want to tell you. Bottom line is that you're going to start to see once the sectors start to release their earnings, it's going to impact the like stocks. Morgan came out, even though they beat on the top end and the bottom line, there is, these stocks have run anywhere between 20 and 30%. As a matter of fact, Goldman Sachs is up 31% since November 7th. So it's, and the last time that they reported earnings for and right after the election. So taking a look at that, and the options basically were telling us that there was an expectation of a range of around $8. Well, it looks like the stock has moved in advance. Regardless of what the earnings are right now, it's moving in advance of the earnings. Implied volatility is also really low in advance of this announcement. It's at 25%. That's where the IV rank is. That's telling me that there's not a heightened expectation of big violent moves now that we've seen some of its peers already come out. Even though they beat, the stock's being beat down. The market in general is also to the downside. So what are we looking at here in Goldman Sachs? Well, tomorrow what I want to watch is some critical levels. And the first level I want to watch is 242. If the short-term bulls have in fact lost control of the stock with it trading 237 right now, that level has to be pierced, or in other words, you need a catalyst to the upside through that level if you're going to see continuation of the bulls on the short-term trend. Now, on the midterm trend, you're going to watch 225. Any pullback that's going to come deeper than the $8 that's being priced in over the next 3 days is going to really start to ruffle the feathers of the long, specifically in Goldman Sachs, and especially if it starts to challenge 225. A challenge is okay. That still means that there's institutional support in this stock, and they could come in and buy it at lower levels. But a break of 225 means that intermediate trend is broken. That could put a thesis of Goldman Sachs being long, at least now, serious doubt and serious question. 178 is the long-term support, which we don't anticipate it moving to, but we're going to keep an eye on it. Now we also want to look at Citigroup, another large cap financial. They're going to be reporting. Now, since November 7th, the stock is up 18%. So it's been a sizable move, not as much as Goldman, up 31%. But again, still a sizable move. Now, you could see the earnings per share coming in estimated around 112, and the revenue estimates are coming in at around 17.2 billion. But what does that mean? There's no context there. Well, if I take a look at the stock, it's already trading down 2.2% today in front of its number at $58.31, or in other words, down $1.32. Looking at the options, they were pricing in the range for the next 3 days of being $1.70. Clearly, we're seeing that the stock is moving in advance of earnings, despite the fact that they could have great earnings, blowout on earnings per share and blowout on revenue to the upside. It looks like profit takers are there after they've already seen an 18% move in the last 2.5 months. Implied volatility is very low. So the expectation of big violent moves like this 2.2% move wasn't priced into the market. And it's still not priced in the market. The implied volatility rank is still at 14. So again, I'm not expecting big violent moves, but they're still pricing in another maybe 0.8% move to either the upside or downside right now in its weekly range. Critical levels you're going to want to watch in Citigroup. The short-term bulls are going to need $60 to be retaken. If it's not, the short-term trend is definitely in question. 57.50 is going to be the intermediate trend level. If that gets broken, you could see, especially if it gets broken with volume, you could see a bigger slide and a challenge of the $48 level, which is long-term support. That's the levels that we're going to be looking at, but the range right now is not being priced in to test much below the $58 mark at this juncture, but we'll keep an eye on that. Finally, we have Netflix. Now, those the two stocks that I just talked about, Citigroup and Goldman Sachs, are before market, so you can check that out before the market even opens and see how accurate I am on this stuff. Now, Netflix trading at 132.94, down 76 cents, or about 0.5%, almost 0.6% today. Now, they're reporting after hours. The options for the next 3 days are pricing in a $12 move, basically $12.50 move in this $132 stock. The implied volatility rank is coming in high at 50%. Once you get 50% or higher on the IV rank, that's telling you that there's a heightened sense of bigger moves. That's telling you, folks, that you got to be on your toes if you're positioned in Netflix. 128.40, 115, and 105 are all going to be levels that the bulls are going to need to maintain and hold if, in fact, they're going to stay in control in both the short, mid, and long term. And we're going to watch those levels very closely, especially since the market is pulling back to the downside. It's worst levels that we've seen in weeks. And here's the interesting point. We're seeing volatility also down today. Very mixed messaging right now, and people are scratching their heads. But it looks like there's some profit taking in advance of earnings because of just such great lift that they've had post the Trump election. All right, folks, that's it for Tech Talk right now. We're going to be back at 4:30 Eastern Time to wrap up all of the action here in the markets here at MarketStream.live. Take care.